I bought my daughter a house because I wanted her to feel safe. I wanted her to have something that was hers, something no one could take away from her. But the very same day I handed her the keys, her husband moved his family in, and by nightfall, my daughter was already being treated like a guest in her own home. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My phone buzzed as I sat in the notary's office, pen hovering above the final page. My daughter's voice came through the speaker, low and fragile, like glass ready to crack. "Dad," she whispered, "Ethan says the house isn't what he expected." In the background, I heard him clearly, sharp and dismissive. "Not my style," he said. "You know that." My hand tightened around the pen as the notary slid the document closer. I forced myself to stay calm and signed my name, even though something heavy had settled in my chest. This house was supposed to be a gift, a beginning, not a problem to be criticized. I'd spent years planning this moment. After my wife passed away, I promised myself my daughter Claire would never struggle if I could prevent it. I sold half my business to buy that house. A clean, modern 2-story with a garden she loved the moment she saw it. When I stepped outside, the March air felt sharp against my skin. I looked down at the keys in my palm, her name engraved on the metal. They felt heavier than they should have. Claire had always been gentle, too gentle. That was why I worried about Ethan from the start. He smiled easily, spoke smoothly, and always found a way to make things about himself. By the time I reached the house, Claire was standing in the driveway, arms wrapped around herself like she was bracing for impact. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. I placed the keys in her hand. "It's yours," I said. She nodded, swallowing hard, and thanked me. But her gaze drifted toward Ethan's car, trunk wide open, boxes already spilling out. We hadn't even stepped inside before his mother's voice cut through the open door. "This kitchen is tiny," she snapped. "Honestly, Claire, did you even look at this place?" That was when I knew something was wrong. An hour later, I was back home when Claire called again. She said everything was fine. She said they were just unpacking. But I heard the tension in her voice. I heard dishes clattering, voices barking orders, Ethan laughing like this was all entertainment. The next morning, she sounded worse. "They're still here," she said quietly. "His parents, his sister, everyone." I pictured the house I'd bought, its white walls and polished floors, now crowded with strangers who acted like they owned it. Claire was cleaning, cooking, apologizing for everything. When I told her it was her house, she laughed softly and said, "It's okay, Dad, I can handle it." She couldn't. That night, she broke. Her call came late, her voice shaking as she whispered, "Dad, I can't do this anymore. They treat me like I don't matter." I stood in my kitchen staring at the wall, anger rising so fast it scared me. "I'm coming," I said. She begged me not to, said it would make things worse. I went anyway. When I walked into that house, the sight made my blood boil. Boxes everywhere, empty glasses on the table. Ethan sprawled on the couch like he owned the place. His mother, Margaret, standing in the center of the room like a queen inspecting servants. Claire stood off to the side, arms crossed tightly, eyes wide with fear. I told them to leave. Margaret laughed. Ethan smirked. Then they produced documents claiming they had a legal right to stay. I knew instantly they were fake. But Claire didn't. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about control, about breaking my daughter down until she believed she deserved nothing. I left that night knowing one thing for certain. They had crossed a line, and I was done being patient. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need to hear them. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Claire standing in the corner of her own living room, shrinking under the weight of people who treated her like she didn't belong. I replayed Ethan's smirk, Margaret's cold laughter, the fake documents waved in my face like a threat. They thought they had won. By morning, Claire was at my house. She arrived with a single bag, her shoulders slumped, her eyes red from crying. She looked like someone fleeing a disaster, not a woman returning to her childhood home. "I'm sorry," she whispered as soon as she stepped inside. "I ruined everything." I took her hands and shook my head. "You didn't ruin anything. They did." We sat by the fire, the house quiet, except for the ticking clock on the wall. She told me everything she hadn't said before. How Margaret criticized every meal. How Ethan laughed when his mother ordered Claire around. How they told her the house didn't really belong to her anymore. That was the part that hurt the most. They made her doubt herself. The deed was in Claire's name. I made sure of it. But lies repeated often enough can feel like truth, especially when you're exhausted and alone. That morning, I made a call. Her name was Diane Porter, a lawyer I trusted from years back. Sharp, thorough, and allergic to nonsense. She reviewed the documents Ethan had produced and didn't hesitate. "They're fake," she said. "Sloppy ones, too." For the first time in days, I saw relief flicker across Claire's face. "But," Diane continued, "we'll need proof strong enough to end this quickly. People like them don't back down quietly." That was when she suggested a private investigator. 2 days later, I met him in a quiet park just outside town. His name was Nolan Brooks. He didn't waste words. "Margaret likes control," he said. "People like that always leave trails." He was right. Within a week, he had them. Photos, records, meetings that didn't line up with the stories Margaret told everyone about her perfect marriage. Evidence she would do anything to keep hidden. I didn't act immediately. I waited. Meanwhile, Ethan and his family dug in deeper. They changed the locks. They told neighbors the house was theirs. They spread rumors that Claire was unstable, that she'd abandoned her own home. Claire heard it all. Each lie hurt, but it also hardened her. One evening, she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "I'm done being quiet." That was when we moved. We went back to the house together. Margaret opened the door with that same sharp smile, but it faded the moment she saw the envelope in my hand. Ethan stood behind her, confidence cracking when he realized this wasn't another empty threat. I laid the photos on the table. The room went silent. Margaret's face drained of color. Ethan started shouting, scrambling for excuses, but the damage was done. Control only works when secrets stay buried. I told them they had 10 minutes. Ethan argued, Margaret pleaded, then she panicked. Claire stepped forward. "This is my house," she said, her voice steady and clear. You don't belong here." For the first time, they had nothing to say. They packed fast. Suitcases dragged across the floor, voices raised in blame and accusation. Neighbors watched from their porches as the truth spilled out into the open. When their car finally pulled away, the street went quiet. Claire stood there holding the keys, breathing like someone who had just surfaced from deep water. "It's over," she said. But it wasn't just over, it was beginning again. If this story is resonating with you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share where you're listening from. Your support truly matters. The house felt different the moment they were gone. The air was lighter. The silence wasn't tense anymore. It was peaceful. Claire stood in the doorway for a long time after their car disappeared down the street, the keys resting in her palm like something fragile and sacred. She didn't rush inside. She just stood there, breathing, as if she needed to remind herself that it was real. We walked through the house together. Rooms that had felt crowded and hostile now felt open again. The living room was empty except for a few forgotten boxes. The kitchen counters were scratched, the sink stained from days of being used but never appreciated. Claire didn't cry. Instead, she rolled up her sleeves. We spent the next few days cleaning, repairing, reclaiming. Each sweep of the broom felt like an act of defiance. Each open window let the past out and the future in. One afternoon, Claire found the original deed tucked safely away where I had left it. She held it for a long time, tracing her name with her finger. "They made me believe I didn't deserve this," she said quietly. I looked at her and said the only thing that mattered. They were wrong. The legal process moved quickly after that. Diane filed the necessary motions. The forged documents were officially dismissed. Ethan tried to fight it at first, but without his mother's confidence, he crumbled. The marriage ended soon after. Claire didn't celebrate the divorce. She mourned the life she thought she was building, but mourning gave way to clarity, and clarity gave her strength. A month later, she planted roses in the garden, the same roses she had talked about the first day we toured the house. I watched her kneeling in the soil, sunlight catching in her hair, dirt smudged on her hands, smiling for real this time. Neighbors stopped by. Some brought food. Some just brought quiet support. Community has a way of showing itself when cruelty leaves. That evening, we sat on the porch together, the sky streaked with orange and gold. "This is home," she said, and it was. Not because of the walls or the deed or the fight it took to get there, but because she finally believed she belonged. Before I left, she hugged me tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she said. I smiled and told her the truth. I never will. If you're listening to this story and you've ever felt pushed out of your own space, doubted your worth, or silenced by people who thrive on control, remember this: what's yours is yours, and no one has the right to take it from you. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click the box on the screen. Thank you for listening.